The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast, where we are thrilled to be a part of the Power Moms Network. At Power Moms Network, we are empowering moms and creating a community of mothers, mentoring other moms to greatness. We are also thrilled to have you with us today on the show. It is, we're getting towards the end of season 10. I know I said that before, but now we really are. We're almost there. And today's topic is, something that I think we all struggle with from time to time. And as we get older, somehow the struggle gets more, but we also get better at it. It's a weird, quirk of life. So today we are talking all about how to ask for help, what kinds of help people ask for, like the who, what, where, when, and why of help. And I think there's some really important distinctions we need to get into on that. And we're going to give you guys some very practical how-tos today on asking for help and importantly, knowing when you need to ask for help, because sometimes that can be the hardest part, I think. So before we get into all of that, of course, I'm going to say hello to Tova. How are you today, Tova? What's going on?
This is one of those. Well, okay, I'm good. Thanks for asking. This is one of those fun episodes where we are recording it at a totally different point than somebody will be listening to it. And I always get a kick out of those because it's like we are still in school. It's your kids' last day of school, I believe.
It is, yeah.
And my kids still have a couple days of school left. And but when we are listening to this, or people are listening to this, it could, I may have already bought back to school supplies for the next school year. Part of that is because I buy them very far in advance.
I was going to say, because it's probably coming out in July. That's an impressive feat
but I do
of preparation.
I do buy them very far in advance.
Yeah.
But so it's just one of those. It happens every season that at the end of a season we do record ahead so we can get in the mental mode to prep for the next one.
Right.
And I always get a kick out of that. I always get a kick when we are wearing sweaters and you're going to listen to something in the summer or it's we are on the home stretch. I mean, you are at the end of the stretch of the end of school year. I still have quite a few days but we are on the home stretch. The end is in sight of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, we mentally checked out yesterday. We were just all done. Both kids, myself, and interestingly, it kind of ties into what we're talking about today because I, as you all may or may not have noticed, have injured my knee, and I'm going to need reconstruction of my knee in the fall. So I have to really focus on our topic for today of asking for help and when do I need to ask for help? What's that going to look like? Because in getting my knee done, it's going to be 2 months of not really being able to unstraighten my leg. And there's a whole lengthy process to the thing. And I'm probably going to need some help, right? To parent and get people places and eat and all those fun things. So I think the episode for me is timely in thinking about that. But also, yesterday we spent the afternoon with some friends who have been gracious enough to invite us to their house multiple times to swim in their pool and hang out in their amazing backyard. And it's one of those instances where I don't even know that they knew they were helping, but they were helping, right? Because my kids can just play with their kids. And like, I'm not really parenting at that point in the same way that you are when your kids are home with you. And then also just the relaxation and the like, we're all in it togetherness of it is helping, um, without being like, I need help going to the grocery store, right? It's a different kind of help.
Yeah.
So I think we should talk a little bit about like what kinds of help you might actually be seeking. And in doing the research for this episode, let me just tell you, there is a lot of research out there about help. There's a lot of science. People are very interested in why and how people ask for help and all the like barriers to asking for help. There's a lot out there. So I tried to pare it down into something that you all could actually use, right? And so, in doing that, what I found is that there's really three categories of help that we seek. And as I said in the beginning, this I think is the one of the most important parts of the discussion because it impacts how you ask for help, why you ask for help, when, who, all of those things. So, you might need emotional support. So, this is the kind of help that could come from friends, family members, therapists, importantly, life coaches, mentors, that kind of thing. And it really involves talking about your feelings and what's going on in your life to help you get some perspective. Um, so that's really like the category of help where maybe it's a crisis, maybe it's an emergency. We encourage you to use helplines. We encourage you to find therapists. We encourage you to, speak to your spiritual guide, counselors, whoever you turn to in those circumstances. That's who you're going to be looking to for help. And then there's, I think, the lesser discussed, but maybe equally important practical support that you might be seeking help with. And that's things like I was talking about before, like day-to-day tasks like childcare, cooking, going to the grocery store, and understanding your budget or understanding like how to fix something in your house. This is like the hands-on stuff. And the reason I think this category is just as important is because often, particularly women and moms, when we get to the point where we're actually willing to consider asking for practical support, we're also in need of emotional support, right? Like, because we're so underwater, we're so overwhelmed, we're so like drowning in responsibility that asking for any kind of help feels like too much. And then there's a third category that I actually found interesting and hadn't thought about as a separate category until I did the research, and that is informational support. And that's like, I think super important in the sense that it's like when somebody helps you find a support group or can guide you to finding a therapist or can teach you something, like maybe you do need help with your plumbing, but you also want to learn like you want to learn so you can do it next time, right? So maybe they teach you about plumbing. And so informational support is really like other people helping you figure out where to go for the resources you need. So maybe you are depressed and you reach out to a friend and that's great. And that person isn't necessarily qualified to help you through whatever is causing the depression, but they are qualified to help you find a therapist, right? So there's layers here that I think are really important to talk about.
Yeah, and I think that, as you said, a lot of them interact with each other, and in the sense that, like, if you need the practical support at some point, that may affect your need for emotional support. Like if you're carrying on and you need a lot of help with childcare or cooking or transportation or just things around your house or things like that. And I also think, and I don't know if there was a light on this in your research, that in many respects, this is a fairly new thing in the last several generations, not the need for help, but that you may have to look outside of your immediate family to get that help, because there used to be people lived, and we've talked about this before a lot, but like people lived in the same town that they grew up in, and the parents were there and the grandparents were there, and there was an expectation in for all the generations that there was going to be help coming from the generations, like in all the directions, right?
Right.
Like it was going to help generation. The help was going to go up. The help was going to go down. And I think that, you know, uh, it it didn't require asking as much because people were just in your lives and they could see what needed to be done.
Right.
Or there was an expectation that it was just being done. And perhaps there were other issues of like requesting more space in your life. But now there's this whole world where we need to ask for help. And then it wasn't necessarily there as much before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways, right? Like there's been and I want to talk about this because it goes to why it's important to ask for help. But culturally, we are very focused on independence. We're very focused on bootstrapping, like that sort of like rugged individualism that our country was founded on has permeated every aspect of our culture, right? And so, one of the reasons it's so important to ask for help is because that's a really unhealthy way of looking at life, right? Like it's very unhealthy to think you have to do everything on your own, like you're an island in the world and there's no influence that could come into your island because that's just one, it's not true, and it's not how we're biologically hardwired. We are hardwired for tribalism. We're hardwired to work in groups together. And so I think personally, I think in this instance, it's a good hardwiring. Like it's good to rely on other people and for other people to rely on you. Like that's a healthy sort of behavior that we can all aim to increase, right? So why do we want to ask for help? One thing is to think about like when you ask for help, and we've talked about this before, when you ask somebody for help, it creates, and we'll get more into this, but it creates vulnerability, right? And vulnerability breeds trust and growth and personal relationships. And it also creates space for the other party to ask for help in return. Maybe they're not asking you for help, but maybe they ask somebody else because they see you do it and they go, oh, okay, well, that seems like I can do that. And then they ask somebody else and then it goes from there. And that's a simplified sort of thought process, but really that is a lot of times what happens. Also asking for help, is going to help you improve your work-life balance. We don't love that term. However you think about creating space for all of the parts of you, asking for help is one way to help you create that space so that you aren't all one thing. You don't become one-dimensional. It protects your mental health. It creates, if you're doing it at work, it creates a collaborative work environment. Again, if you ask for help in the office and other people hear you do it and hear you not get berated for it or whatever, then they're more likely to do the same thing. It makes everybody more efficient, makes everybody work together better. You learn new things, you manage your workload better. And all of those things are great for the office. And they're great for your life. Whether it's you're talking to moms on the soccer field or dads or whatever, or you're talking in your friend groups or even in your family systems, if people aren't naturally inclined to just like pick up the reins and help, even in your family systems, that this can create more cohesive sort of living, like you can work together better. And of course, then that improves your relationships because you're growing trust, you're going through that vulnerability cycle we talked about.
Yeah. And you said vulnerability and you just said it again. And I was going to say, I want to make sure we emphasize the vulnerability and you just said it. So like, and I'm going to say it one more time, like we recognize that it takes a lot of vulnerability to ask for help and it takes a lot of vulnerability to accept help. And I think it is important to do it. And it is important to do it, whether it's at home or whether it's at work. I mean, I just had the experience yesterday where I reached out to somebody. I had a quick question about something. I was putting together a slide deck and I wondered if she had any updated slides. And she didn't get back to me right away, which is fine. And I reached out to somebody else. And when she did get back to me, she's like, I have such a cold. Like I am. And then I got yelled at this morning by a customer. And like, I just went back to sleep because I've got slammed by my daughter's cold. And so I said, well, let me know, like, do you want me to cover your emails or anything this afternoon? And she's like, no, I'm going to like work for 45 minutes and I'm taking a nap. they can wait 2 hours and then I'll check in. Interestingly enough, very similar to what the digital detox person said, like
Yeah.
they can wait 2 hours.
Yeah.
What Adriana said. But like but I offered the help, and she also was like open to be like, I feel crappy, and like maybe we should have a larger discussion about like just taking a sick day. But but we both work from home, and like, you do have that flexibility sometimes of just like, I'm going to check in on my emails, I'm going to take a 2 hour nap.
Yeah.
And I offered the away message option if she needed to put it up. And so, but even just being vulnerable enough to share that you're not feeling well sometimes, I think that is different than our culture was sometimes, like than 5 years ago, where it would have been like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I've just been busy this morning, and not sharing things. And I think it is really important when we ask for help to give space for other people to ask for that help. And you learn just like we learned when we were kids, who we were willing to be in a group project with and who we didn't want to be in a group project with. You kind of learn, like, in the group project of life, like who you want to be in a group project with. Like I'm working as this is recording, and it'll be weeks before I will be like, I won't even remember this experience, a week when this is on. But like, I'm working on baskets for a fundraiser for the Cub Scouts, not a full-blown tricky tray, like 6 little mini baskets that kids would like. And I'm doing it with another mom. And she and I both agreed that this was actually really fun. Like, we enjoyed doing it together. She went to some stores, I went to some stores, and then we would like send each other pictures and be like, yep, that looks good. That looks good. Great. And then we like threw it together. And we're like, yeah, that's good enough. Great. Like, it was just it was very easy. And so we both agreed we would do it again, but only if the other person did it, and like probably with nobody else. Like, we were like, this is our group project, and we like this person in the project. And I think that the bigger the group that you can have in your group project, obviously the better. But it's asking for help and being willing to accept help and give help is how you kind of figure out who to invite into that group project.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good analogy for like most aspects of this conversation. There's a lot of, I think, misconception and fear around asking for help, and the science really bears that out. I think, as I said before, um, culturally, we're programmed to sort of value independence, and also to look at people as if, to have a more pessimistic, self-interested view of people, right? Like, we think people are more self-interested than they are, more negative, all of those things. That's borne out in the research. That's how people perceive other people more often than not. And yet, the research also shows that people are far more willing to help when asked, than we perceive them to be. And so this is one of the biggest, I think, I'm sorry, I'm so congested today. This is one of the biggest barriers to asking for help, is thinking that other people don't want to help you, right? Like, that people are just going to say no, you're going to get rejected, and it's going to feel terrible. But there's a lot of evidence showing that that's not the case. I was reading one study, and this study, conducted in 8 cultures around the world, found that 88% of naturally occurring requests for help were fulfilled. People did it. That's 88%. That's a huge amount. And that another study showed that helping people in need is an intuitive response that other people have. And that it leaves people feeling better about themselves, about the world, and generally more positive. So if that's the case, then that shows very clearly that people do want to help us. People want to be helpful and useful and productive in life. And when you ask somebody to help you, you're basically telling them that they're competent, right? You're telling them that they are capable of doing the thing you're asking them to do, that they are somebody you trust enough to ask, so they're a trustworthy person. So it just boosts people's self-esteem and value. Like, there's no downside for the person being asked to help, as long as you ask in a way that is not directive. It's more a question, right? And
I was just saying, I mean, like, if you're asking someone to give your kid a ride somewhere, like, you're asking them to like transport my mom used to say like her precious cargo. Like
Right.
you're asking them to like give your child a ride in this big moving machine. Like the implication is that you trust them to do that. Like it's a big implication. And I don't know that the direct opposite of helpless and helpful, I don't think they're like actual opposites, but I think often what happens is if somebody is going through a crisis, the people around them, and this isn't always the situation when you're asking for help, but like people around, there's so many things that are not in people's control, right? Like in our lives, and we say this all the time on the podcast, is like, that's not in your control. Sorry, that's not in your control. There's so much in our lives that aren't in our control. And we feel helpless. Like we can't fix things. We can't fix diseases. We can't fix so many things. Many of us are not surgeons, so we can't fix, your knee injury. Like there's just things we can't fix. And so being helpful, though, feels like the opposite of feeling helpless. Like it's not the opposite of the two words are not, antonyms, but the feeling feels the opposite. So when you can gift someone that feeling, like I can't solve all the problems of the world, but I can help this person by picking their kid up after school because they're running late.
Right.
Like I can bring that person dinner. Like I am solving somebody else's problem. It's a little problem, but I can solve it.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times I've offered to like pick other people's kids up because I'm going there anyway. Like I'm picking up my kid. Why wouldn't I pick up your kid? And had the other person be like, no, that's okay. Thank you. No, no, no. And it wasn't like these are people I'm good friends with. So it wasn't even like, they're like, I don't know, you strange lady. It was like, I don't want to be a burden. And we're going to get to that. But it was like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to make it harder for you. I don't want to, like all of those things where I'm going, I'm driving to that place and sitting there waiting for people to get in my car. Like there is no added burden to my life. And so I think oftentimes people say no to help in anticipation of it becoming like a burden to the other person or feeling like, well, we're going to get into all these, like after we talk about, how, you need help, which is, I think, part of like baseline conversation for the whole thing. But I find that happens a lot, like where people are like, no, or like you offer to bring something to the party, like I'm going to bring cookies, I'm going to bring a salad, whatever. I'm like, no, just bring yourself. You don't need to bring anything. I don't understand that necessarily. At the same time, I do, because there's times where I'm like, no, I don't want to bother you with my life, like my existence, right? Because that's ultimately what it is. It's your life, your existence. Like
I'll be honest, just to clear the air here, if I ever invite you to a party and I tell you not to bring something, it's because I like in my head I have all the dishes figured out, like literally the plates that I want things to go on. And so I've been like, no, I have it all prepared in my mind.
Right. I've thought that before, and I understand that because I am particular as well. But I also see like so much value in letting people letting people what's the word I want, provide some aspect of whatever's going to happen. So in that case you could just bring a hostess gift if you want, and it solves that problem. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about signs that you need help, and then quickly sort of move through that to the practical how-to of it all. But we need to take a break. So we will be right back, everyone. Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like-minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential. With expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind-hearted accountability, and a supportive network, the Year of You is more than just a goal-setting group. It's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes, or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The year of you, where your goals become reality. Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were talking about sort of some of the misconceptions about seeking help, and we'll get more into the barriers after all this, but I want to get to the meat of it. So how do you know when you need help? First thing is, remember we have categories of help. Do you need emotional support, physical support, or I'm going to call it intellectual support because I can't remember what I said before. Do you need to learn something?
Informational support.
Informational. Thank you. So there are a bunch of signs in all the studies that came up. Some of them are specific more towards needing emotional support, and some are more towards practical support, right? But just running through the list, if you're lacking energy and feeling tired all the time, if you're exhausted all the time, if you have that brain fog and find it hard to think clearly and you don't have COVID, if you're having trouble concentrating, and this is continuous, not like I have one day where this happens and like, I need to take a nap because I didn't sleep well last night, right? If you're restless and agitated, if you're having trouble regulating your emotions, like you're crying all the time or you're ranging, big highs, big lows, that kind of thing. If you don't want to talk to people, be around people, if you don't enjoy the things you used to enjoy, using alcohol or drugs to like get through the day, these are all signs that you probably need some emotional support, whether that's through a mentor or a program or a therapist or all of the above, more likely. These are all like very clear signs that you need some emotional support in your life. And the next one on the list is experiencing burnout, which I feel like goes through all of the categories, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're feeling burnout, you probably need emotional support. You probably need somebody to come with some information for you, because once you're burnt out, like you're not finding yourself a therapist. You're sitting on your couch staring at a wall. Like that's it. You're done. So you need all of those things. And then, the last thing I want to mention on this topic is it can be really hard to know when you need to ask for help, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're confused, if you're stuck, if you're missing deadlines at work, if your stress is getting in the way of your everyday life, like if you're home and all you're doing is thinking about work and you can't like engage with your family in any meaningful way. If you know that you're trying to do something and you don't know how to do it, like which happens to all of us, frankly, like it happens to me all the time, then you need some help. You need someone to teach you how to do it, or you need to watch enough YouTube videos to learn how to, change your faucet. So all of those are good signs and flags to you that like it's time to evaluate what is the thing in my life that is causing the stress, anxiety, confusion, whatever. And who can I ask for help with that thing? And then how am I going to ask them? So I want to I went through that quickly because I really want to get to the how-tos, because this is what we promised you guys. And there's a lot on how to ask for help. And I think the biggest takeaway from me, and then I'll turn it over to you, Tova, is that you need to be clear in asking for help, what you're asking for, because that's what makes it easy for the other person to be like, yes, I can do that, or no, I can't, and this person could, or whatever the response is going to be. But if you're not clear in the ask, then the person doesn't know how to respond. And I know that there are times where you don't know what you need, and that is a clear ask. It is a clear ask to say, I need help. I don't know what I need. That's an informational request. Okay, you don't know what you need. Let's talk about it. Let's brainstorm. Let's go through possibilities, right? That is still a clear ask, but you can frame it in such a way of, I know I need help. I really don't know what I need. Can you help me figure that out?
Yeah, I do want to go through all the ways to ask for help, because you have this great list here. And it was the one caveat that I wanted to say. Either you're like, I have this specific issue, and I don't know how to fix it, right? And that's like an informational ask for help, or there's an emotional support need, or even a practical support need where something happens in your life that is so significant that your friends and family may say, we want to help you. And you're like, and I clearly need your help. And yet I am so overwhelmed at this moment because it's a sudden thing, right? A diagnosis, a trauma of some kind. And you're like, I don't, I don't know what I need. And honestly, I can't figure it out. Like, and it is okay at that moment to kind of say that and to say, um, instead of shutting down, right? And saying, and I know this is going to come up in the barriers of asking for help, but instead of just like digging in and saying, because I can't follow all these great how to's and asking for help in the way I'm supposed to ask for help, I'm just going to say, no, I don't need any help because I can't take on that stress of figuring out how to ask for help. You can say, yes, I need help. I don't know. I don't know what I don't have any idea what I need help with. And so I think that is really important just to say at the outset that like sometimes you do know what you need help. And that's what a lot of this is what we're going to be talking about. And sometimes it is like, yeah, like there's a smell in my house. I don't even know where to start. And that's like an informational, like, I don't know where to begin. Help me figure this out. Let's troubleshoot. Let's brainstorm. But there is every once in a while that like crushing overwhelm where you're like, yeah, I need help. I don't know. I probably need a therapist. I think I need someone to feed me and my kids. I don't know. Yeah. And that's okay too.
It is. And I think you can apply these steps to that scenario. And sometimes having these like how-to steps in the overwhelm is part of the help, right? It's part of the like, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. Like, how do I even begin to think about what it is that I might need? Right. And so, yes, the first step of asking for help is figuring out what you actually need. And in that instance that you're talking about, Tova, and that I was talking about, what you actually need is help figuring out what you need. That is a request, right? Like you can frame it as, this is the help I need. I need help figuring out what I need. And it's a perfectly valid ask for help. It'll follow the SMART goal method of asking for help that we're going to get to. So a lot of the research was about like using effective language, being clear, asking for help in a way that people can understand you. And understanding that people want to help you. And so opening the conversation with the expectation that the person is not going to belittle you, berate you, or judge you or reject you. Like if you can start the conversation without those preconceived expectations, it'll go much better for you. So consider the timing of your ask for help too. Like, don't ask somebody for help when they're also drowning. Don't ask somebody for help when they're in the middle of like feeding their kids dinner. Like, don't ask me for anything when I'm trying to feed my kids dinner. I'm not going to help you. I am currently battling my children. But if you ask me in the morning while they're at school or camp or wherever, like, yeah, I'm probably going to help. Right. So think about the timing of the ask that you're going to make. That I think that it's something I've learned in my marriage is that timing is very important, right? Like if I ask my husband to do something in like at one point in the day versus another, I'm much more likely to get the result I want. And that's just being human, right? Like I'm the same way. There are times of the day where I'm just like, I'm done with everything and I don't want to help anyone. And remember to say thank you. I don't know why that's on this list, but it is. So I'm going to remind us all. Also like giving people, so I find this one to be a gray area, but giving people the space to say no without feeling guilty, I think is really important. So when you're asking somebody for help, making sure that you ask in a way that is not demeaning to yourself. So not like, it's okay if you can't, but like I don't think that that's good for us. I don't think that's healthy for us. It's more of being like, I really could use help with X, Y, and Z on Thursday. Would you have time? If not, is there another time you could help me? Right? Yeah. Like or, just phrasing things and just being thoughtful about the way you ask the questions, right? So that people have the space to say no if they need to say no. Um, a couple other things, feel entitled to ask for help, right? Like it's okay to ask for help. You're allowed, you're entitled to ask for help when you need to. It's a hard, I find this one's a little amorphous, but it's important that we recognize everyone needs help sometimes, that it's perfectly normal and natural to ask for help, and that it means nothing about your character other than you have courage, right? Like
Yeah.
that's it. Um, what else do we want to talk about on this list?
Um, I I mean, obviously say thank you. Um, but I mean, I think a big one is, and you have said this, but you can't just be the person that gives help to people. And I
Yeah,
think that's, and we said it before, but I want to just emphasize this. You can't just be the giver of help. Because what you're saying is it's okay for me to give you help, but it's not okay for me to ask for help. And you're
right.
basically like, you're kind of telling that person that it's not okay for them to ask for help. Like you're not really saying that, but you're sort of saying that. And like, listen, it is okay. There may be imbalances because there are parents with different schedules. There are parents who it is easier for them to pick up kids after school. There are like, I always, my son's, one of my kids, his best friend, both of his parents are school teachers. So it is very hard for them, obviously, to get to the absurd number of in school, like assemblies and concerts and stuff because they are at school teaching other children.
Right.
I can run over in my day and walk the 7 minutes to school and take pictures. And so I always take pictures of their sons and take videos and send them over.
Yeah.
And like if I thought that there was a imbalance, if I like if I expected them to do it in return, that would be really weird because they can't.
Yeah.
And I have no expectation. On the other hand, we are good enough friends. Our kids are good enough friends um, that I could like call and like this weekend and say like, hey, my one son has a birthday party. Can I just invite my others? Can my middle son just come to your house? Like, can he just come and hang out?
Right.
And they can't because they're busy. But like, we're at that relationship where I can just say, hey, can they just come over? So like,
Yeah.
my point is, you need to be like a giver and a taker, and
Yeah.
that's like a good thing. And in a flow, and also probably not be keeping like a tally of like, well, I've done this and they're doing that, and like making sure the balance sheets even out. It's not going to leave you feeling very good.
No. And it's also stressful to try and remember all of that.
Yes.
Um, there's another thing I want to talk about in the how-to of it all, and that is like how to actually accept the help. Um, something I certainly struggled with when I was a lot younger is being open to the coaching and feedback of others, right? Like if people give you
Yeah.
feedback, being willing to take it, um, and not take it as if it's a criticism of who you are as a human being, right? Like if somebody is telling you, you know, I don't know why I'm hung up on plumbing today, but I am. If somebody is like teaching you something about plumbing, not just being like, oh, I know, I got it. All right. Just being open to that feedback, open to the help.
Yeah.
Obviously thanking people, and not micromanaging the way in which somebody helps you. If someone is going to help you at work and do like some, part of a project you're working on, don't stand over their shoulder. Why did you ask them for help? Right? Let them do it their way. Their way may not be the same way as yours. It probably isn't. And that is okay. It also teaches us flexibility in thinking, which is a very healthy thing to do. Um, allowing for the support, just leaving space for the support, whatever it is, the emotional support, not dismissing what this is something I've run into before, which I find very frustrating. People who ask you for, emotional support and you give it and then they're like, no, like, I don't, why did you ask for my opinion? Like, if you're just going to tell me no, we don't have to agree, but like, you're not even allowing the ideas to enter your person, right? And that
Yeah.
is, then you're not getting the help you need. And then, just offering to help other people helps you accept other people's help. It's very
Yes.
hard to say.
Yes.
It can create that space in yourself to be like, well, I helped all these other people and, that felt pretty good. So maybe this, Uncle Bob is going to help me and he's going to feel great about it because I know I did. Right. So
I
it
would
gives you that.
I would also say, and I don't know if I don't know that I saw this on your outline, but you and I have talked about this. Like not your help doesn't have to be perfect. Like the help you
Right.
give and also the help that you receive, neither of it has to be perfect. Like, so I learned when I had a meal train set up twice, and I used to be nervous about signing up to bring people's meals because I was like super worried about not making the meal like up to their expectations.
Yeah.
And what I realized is it's really nice to have other people bring you food and feed your family when you can't do it.
Yes.
And like it does not matter what they bring you.
No,
Like
because you don't have to think about it, right? Like
yeah.
that's the whole point.
Like it really, really does not matter what they bring you. And
Yeah.
also people who are like, hey, we're going to put a frozen food order for you at Whole Foods and fill your freezer. That's been awesome because guess when I really needed food? Yes, it was great when I couldn't lift things more than 5 pounds, but it's also been really great now when I'm back at work.
Yeah.
And like, I'm still freaking exhausted all the time because I'm recovering from surgery, but also I'm working. And so I can pull things out of the freezer. And so like, there are people who put together these phenomenal, amazing meals. I mean, I literally have somebody every time I've had surgery who has made essentially a Thanksgiving dinner, and it is amazing and spectacular. And if that's your thing because you love to cook and you use this as an excuse to cook, like do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
When my husband had heart surgery and my daughter was not quite 2, his friends bought us a deep freezer and put it in our basement. They like had it all set up and put it together and then they filled it up. And it was like, I don't know, it made all the difference. Plus it makes you feel good. Like people care about you. Like, like you want to be cared about, right? Like that
yeah,
feels good. And it, grows those relationships. I think it's a good thing to be able
yeah.
to accept that kind of help.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I was just thinking, like, I remember you once had some kids over and it wasn't like you weren't helping necessarily the other parents, but like you were, because anytime you have somebody else's kids over, it's a help for
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
And you were concerned about like what you were feeding them. And it was
Oh, yeah.
like, it's fine. It's totally fine. And I think it's just important to know that like whether you're giving or receiving the help, like it's great. Help is great. It's just nice to have.
Yeah.
And so that's just, I think, a really important thing to remember through this whole how to ask for help and receive help process.
Right. We need to take another break. So
Yeah.
why don't we do that? When we come back, we'll start like running through some of these barriers to asking for help. Because there are a lot. So we will
Yeah.
be right back, everyone.
Hey, pod friends, it's us again. Looking for a place to collaborate, an opportunity to share your knowledge? Have you been working so hard on a podcast, book, course, product, or retreat? Do you have insights that could light up our podcast? Well, we want to hear from you. We would love to support you in all that you are and do. Join us at Go Boldly Initiative, where we celebrate diverse perspectives and share the wisdom of our incredible community. Whether you're an expert, a hobbyist, or simply love learning, we invite you to reach out with your ideas. Visit our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/podcast guests to pitch the show or shoot us an email at hello@goboldlyinitiative.com to talk all things collaboration, advertising, and affiliation opportunities. Become part of our growing family. Let's make learning an adventure together.
All right. So welcome back to the show. Before the break, we went through our how-to of asking for help, and it's pretty basic. I forgot to mention you can use SMART criteria for asking for help. So make your request specific, meaningful, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. And that makes it easier for people to help. I think that really applies in a workplace setting. That's a great place to use that technique. It's a little harder in your day-to-day life, but you can do it.
It's also, by the way, a great way to offer help.
Mm,
So I know when somebody's going through something, you're like, listen, if you need anything, just let me know. It is, as we're talking, because we have a whole episode on how to ask for help. Well, this almost everything we're saying about how to ask for help can be reversed on how to give help. So,
yeah.
one thing I have learned in needing to ask for help is I really appreciated the people who were like, I'm going to the grocery store. Do you need anything? And at first I would just be like, no, because we can get it from Instacart. It doesn't matter. But then I realized they felt like they needed to do something because their friend was in need. But B, like we did run out of like random things. And I didn't want to put together a $35 Instacart order to get like milk or oddly one time pickles. Like, like, and so I'd be like, actually, could you get us pickles? And they did, and they felt very useful, and my kids were very excited. And so I always really appreciate when somebody's offer for help is very specific, and it's like, hey, I am doing X, Y, or Z, would you like me to pick something up? Or
Yeah.
I'm going to this place, would you like me to take one of your kids with me? Like, I think it's a great way to offer help as well. I have been not harassing, gently offering walks to a woman in town who recently lost her wife. And she has been very clear that she has not been able to go for a walk yet. And she's like, just keep asking. And I think that it's a lot easier for me than to say, like, how are you? A couple times a week. I was like, okay, I'm going for a walk tomorrow at this time. And I said, and I've told her, like, I'm just going to keep doing it. Like, and you can say no every time and or ignore them. Like you're not upsetting me. You're not offending me. And I think she's like, and then it gives her that space too, sometimes to be like, I didn't sleep well last night, but like she can give me more or less depending on what she feels like she wants to share. And it doesn't matter. So my point is, I love the smart idea for both asking, but also offering help because it's such a great way to be like, oh yes, I could actually use that very specific thing.
Right. And it's easy for both parties in that case, right? Like it's easy for you to be like, I'm already going to the grocery store. What does it matter if I pick up an extra box of Cheerios? Like there's no, like, it's not hard for me. I can of course do that. And like you're saying, it provides that space where you can like reach out to the person. I mean, I also really like when I know somebody is going through something wherein they need emotional support. I like to send a text that's like, thinking about you, hope everything's okay. You don't need to respond to this. Like you can or you can't. Like that's your choice. And I'm not sitting here judging you for one thing or the other.
Right.
Because I think sometimes if you're struggling or you're going through something, like you don't want to talk to people. You just don't want to. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to. But societally we feel the pressure to respond. I mean, we like you brought up earlier, we were just talking about this in the digital detox episode with Adriana, like you feel that urge. You're like, oh, I got to respond right away. They're expecting it. And that's just adding stress to the pile of stress you're already under. So, as a help, like you're saying, Tova, as a helper, you can sort of make it easier for people to accept your help in doing it, like in certain ways. So I think that's a great point. So let's talk about barriers. One thing I read in all of the like scientific studies, I can't believe I know I'm hung up on it, but I really cannot believe how many scientific studies have been done on asking for help. Because like there's other things that need to be studied and I want to be like, come on guys, like spread it around. But one of the things that I read is that neuroscience and psychology have shown reaching out for aid can trigger uncertainty, risk of rejection, the potential for diminished status, and even threaten our sense of autonomy. I mean, that's so heavy. That feels so heavy when you're like just asking for help. And this is the most important part. The feelings that I just described have been shown to activate the same brain regions as physical pain, right? So we talk a lot about the mind-body connection. And If you are firing parts of your brain that indicate to you that you are in physical pain, also known as danger, you're not going to continue down the path that lights those parts of your brain up, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to, because it's not safe. And so what has to happen then is you have to rewire your brain to not trigger those areas when you're asking for help, right? You have to like reconfigure the way in which you think about help in the world. And that's one of the reasons, and maybe I should have put that at the beginning, but that's one of the reasons this whole topic is so important. And it is that asking for help can make you feel like you are in danger, and that makes you not do it. And then that puts you in danger, right? Like in some way,
Yep.
whether it's a job loss, emotional danger, just feeling miserable, which is not fun. So all of those things come into play. That was the biggest one. There's like 8 billion here. And I think some of them are really, really obvious, like fear of rejection, fear of rejection, fear of being a burden or inconveniencing others. And then, as we've discussed, that fear of being vulnerable. Interestingly, the science also was talking about how the age of kids who feel like asking for help is a weakness is getting younger and younger. So culturally, we are failing at fixing this, right? Like we are not doing our kids a service, because it used to be like that started around 9 for kids. Now, apparently, young as 5. They're thinking if they ask a question and get it wrong in school, that they have failed. And that they are somehow weaker than other people. And that is really unhealthy. Like, we want to embrace kids' curiosity. We want them to ask questions and get it wrong, because that's how they learn. If they never ask and they never reach, they're not going to learn. And so you're going to have a very stagnated culture. So that really, like, reading all that was like super depressing. I'm going to be honest.
Well, and it's funny because like I've tried to teach my kids that like I don't get upset when you ask for help. I get upset when you don't ask for help. I get upset when you just do things and you don't ask for help. On the other hand, like so there are times when I'm like tired and I just want to be seated. And it's just like, no, I don't want to get up. But I'm like, I try to quench that urge.
Yeah, I try to find a balance, because like I want them to try and figure things out and fail at it and then ask me for help. But I don't want it to be things where they're in danger or they're making a giant mess or they're irritating me in some way.
It's more like spilling, there's a big learning curve with like pouring things. Like I will not ever get mad at you for asking for help to pour something.
Right.
But I want you to identify, like, is there too much in this gallon of milk that I can't pour it without help?
Yeah.
That is when you ask for help. Like I never get mad at you if you spill something. Like if you accidentally spill something, things spill. But if you just like think that you can pour the milk and you clearly can't because it's full and you're 4, like you should have asked for help.
Right.
So we have tried over, and things where like they'll stick something on the wall. Like they once put these lights that wrapped all around their room, and then they thought that they didn't work. And I was like, so this would be a great life lesson in like that you plug lights in before you do stuff. And then it turned out they worked, so it was okay. But it's a balance, right? Like my son just made ramen noodles, my 12-year-old, and he was like, which is great. He needs to learn how to make ramen noodles. And he was like asking me how. And I'm like, there are directions on the package.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like there's that area where you're just like, come on. You didn't even try.
Read the directions and then ask me for help. And he was like, does the water need to boil first? I was like, I don't know. What do the directions say? And he was like, boil the water. And I was like, so I feel like
problem solved.
You should boil the water.
My mom growing up used to always say to me, let's look it up, when I would ask her a question. And I feel like that is what I'm trying to do. It usually comes out as like, did you try to figure this out yet? Like, where are your socks? Are they possibly in the top drawer of your dresser? I don't know. Like, maybe go look. And so she was much nicer about it than I am, is what I'm trying to say. Like I am.
My kids definitely like especially my middle son, who is very bad at looking for things.
Oh.
And he'll be like, I looked everywhere. And I'll say, specifically,
Right.
where did you look? And he'll be like, well, I looked right there.
Yeah.
And I'll be
everywhere.
like, did you lift it up? Like open the drawer, we'll take the sweatshirt
All
on the
the
top
time.
off the
All the
pile,
time.
and he'll be like right underneath. And I think he is starting to get frustrated to the point that he may actually start like
Doing the thing. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
I hope so.
We'll see. I mean, but it's like, I want you to ask for help, but I also want you to try a little first.
Yeah, that's what we're saying though. It's like that balance when they're kids of like, which way do we go? And I know when I was like a baby lawyer, I asked so many questions that I know I made the lawyers I was working for mad. Like I was constantly like questioning myself. But I also didn't know what I was doing because law school does not prepare you to be a lawyer.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't want to mess this up. This seems like really important. And of course, that's where at work you need to like learn how to ask for help to the right people at the right time in such a way that you get the help you actually need.
Yeah.
Like I could have really used somebody to tell me what was important and what wasn't, right? Like that would have been the help I should have asked for. Like, is this important or can I just sort of figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
just like let's keep going through a couple of these. Let's see where I lost my place on our ridiculous list of things here. Codependency is a barrier, right? If you're codependent and you get your worth from what others think and you think that only taking care of other people is the way that you're going to be of value, then you're less likely to ask for help because you might feel like it diminishes your value. Codependency is a not nice thing. It's not fun to have. It's not fun to be in. And I personally encourage finding therapy to help you deal with that as a recovering person of that nature.
It's also confusing if you are somebody who is a natural like nurturing person who genuinely like you like that. Like I think part of fall, I like fall because there's this like warm, cozy, taking care of you, nurturing aspect of fall. Like to me, fall is like nurturing.
Yeah.
It's not like everything's dying, but
like, no, but I get what you mean. It's that like coziness, the like knitted,
I'm gonna
knitted
make
blankets
soup.
and sweaters.
Yeah.
And,
like we're gonna like, I'm gonna make soup for people and feed them. And they're gonna come over and eat my soup and my bread and like whatever. And I'm gonna be I think part of having people over is I like to feed people and I like to take care of them.
Yeah.
And figuring out where that healthy line ends. And it does. There are lots of lines. Absolutely. There are lots of places where it ends and codependency begins.
Well, and I think it goes into the next one too. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but like being an overgiver, right? And it comes from a misguided, what the research says is it comes from a misguided belief that you have to earn love, right? Instead of deserving it for just being who you are. So codependency and overgiving often go together. And like you're describing regular giving. If it was like, I don't know what else to call it. If it was, I'm going to do all this and then somebody's going to offer to do the same for me. And I'm going to be like, no. Then you're probably overgiving because you're thinking like, if I take their help, that means, they're not going to love me as much because I haven't given them enough, right? Like there's never enough.
Right. And also I think it's those are important conversations to have like internally or with a therapist as to like what your motivation is. Like, I think I do those things. I do think I did those things at times so people would like me.
Sure.
And I think now I do it because I like to do it. Like I like to have, it's something I enjoy and that I like to give. And I would prefer to, and I think that there are other people who are like, yeah, I don't like, that's not my love language.
Right. Like, absolutely. It's not mine. I'm not making anyone soup anytime soon. Like that's not how like,
it's really love. The only thing I really don't like about summer is the lack of soup.
Well, you love a hot beverage too.
And gazpacho.
Right.
And the lack of hot beverage, but there's cold beverages that like make up. There's less cold soups. Right. And I don't like cold soups other than gazpacho. So
I don't like any cold soups.
Sorry, we digress.
There's also the possibility that you have a victim mentality. I hate that phrase, but there is merit to it in this scenario. The idea that, the world is against you, the universe is against you, everything's set up to make you fail and not succeed and be unhappy and live your life in a cesspool of misery, right? Like that's that sort of victim mentality. And if you, in that scenario, then go ask somebody for help and they actually help you, that really makes it hard to maintain your victim mentality, right? Because somebody's helping you and it's working out. I don't know.
I think it's not, I think a victim mentality, but also I right now, for a lot of people in our country, and not just our country, but around the world is a dark place.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like people who legitimately it's a dark place. I mean people who have cultivated an us versus them mentality, not in places where it is legitimately an us versus them scenario happening.
Right.
But like they have cultivated they're coming to get us, they're taking our jobs, it's us versus them, it's the others, and I've got to take what's mine, and there's this paranoia and the out to get us. And when I think that when you are confronted by people who are kind and who are showing kindness and who are helping, and not helping in a over the top ostentatious way, but just like, let me just help you out because that's what we do in our community, because that's how we are. In my community, there's a young woman in high school who had cancer a few years back, and she is still fighting and still dealing with it. And they're hoping to put a pool in her backyard. And there was a call out yesterday on Facebook about, who can come and help install this pool this weekend. And I am not someone with that skill set, but I know that will get taken care of. There's a Facebook group that we are in, and I think somebody's son or daughter, child, is very particular for reasons, with their food that they like. They have a very limited palate, and there is a certain type of, I don't know, I want to say like taquito or something. It's something very specific at Trader Joe's that they like. And Trader Joe's changed the formula, like not formula, but changed the recipe.
The way they made it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she put this call out to this group. She basically now has, thanks to some Trader Joe's employees and people all over the country, and it was frozen, so all the stuff had to get packed specially to be shipped. Yeah. She has enough for a year.
Yeah.
So she can help her child, like slowly change, like keep eating this one thing,
calories in to
get
survive,
the calories
in,
but also maybe change into liking this other thing or something else,
or find some other thing they can do, but like they have that backup.
Yeah. But if you only want to see the dark, and then you are because it's not even just victim, it's like angry mentality.
Yeah.
And then you're confronted with all this goodness. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's like that. What is that account on Instagram? The Good News Movement, or good something like that. And they're constantly posting like random good news, and it's such a great counterbalance to the miserable news cycle we're usually stuck in.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing where I think what you're talking about comes into play, where if you're a person who thinks like, people are going to come over the fake wall and take your jobs and like, I don't know, infiltrate your cities or whatever weird things you think. And yes, I'm being judgy because I am. Then, seeing good news like that really like counteracts your mentality and really like breaks it down if you're allowing it to like infiltrate your brain. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that. So being counter dependent. So I think a lot of those people we're talking about fall into this category. So do you see asking for help as weak or foolish? Are you a person who is so independent that you have become counter dependent? I definitely was there for some period of my life, and it was really lonely. So I don't recommend it. Do not recommend.
0 stars.
Yeah, 0 stars. So a couple more, and then I want to I have a couple strategies and we're going super long today. So, low self-esteem, if you have trust or intimacy issues, concerns, like those get in the way of you asking for help. And then the thing that I found the most interesting, and because I hadn't thought about it, is the idea that people may have a limiting belief that they deserve to suffer. So in this sense, this particular psychologist wrote that limiting beliefs are hidden assumptions we take on board as children, then mistake for truth and carry into our adult life, making choices to prove them right. So a limiting belief that you are a bad person or deserve to suffer means you can't ask for help, or you'd prove your own belief wrong.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating because, we talk about limiting beliefs a lot, but I hadn't thought about it in that context. And now
Yeah.
that I have, like, I can see it in certain people that I know. And it's just, that's hard. That is a hard thing to do to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you kind of overcome these barriers? I would say, our usuals, right? Meditation, journaling, therapy, practicing with a trusted friend, doing it scared. But I really like these kind of journal prompts that I found in one of the studies. And that was like, try asking yourself, what will happen if I ask for help? What has happened before when I've asked for help? Who should I ask for help? What will happen if I don't ask for help? Right. And you can journal out all of those things to think about like what it will look like, right? Like, what does it look like when you ask for help? And I think that, those sorts of strategies like really can make a big difference. I think if you're
Yeah.
struggling with any of this, like codependency, interdependency, all of those things, really, really seek therapy. It will help you. It will make a difference. And when you talk to your therapist, tell them this is what you need to work on, right? I want to be able to ask for help and I don't know how to allow myself to do that. Why? And then off you go to the races. So being asked for help is what is termed a pro-social behavior. So being asked for help, asking for help is, quote, pro-social. Digging into my psychology roots here. And what it does is it affirms the person's competency that you're asking. And interestingly, one study showed that agreeing to a request could satisfy basic psychological needs for relatedness, autonomy, and competence, creating a positive experience to the extent that a request can be fulfilled. Like, those are great things you're giving to people, right? So
Yeah.
when you're asking for help, you're not just asking for help, you're also giving trust, you're giving belonging, you're giving connection, you're giving a lot of good things. So if that's what you need to think about to be comfortable asking for help, then by all means, because that's what's happening. So asking for help really can improve your relationships. It can help you reach your goals faster, decrease your stress and anxiety, help you connect with others. I mean, it does all sorts of great things for you. I don't know that we need to like go through all of these and convince you all that asking for help is a worthwhile endeavor.
I think the point is, I mean, the point you've made the point, but we've talked at the beginning about how legitimately and real the anxiety and potential pain even that you can feel when you are asking for help. It is very, very real, and it is very, very worth it. Not just for the actual help you get, not just for the ride for your kid or the assistance at work, but for these, there are other significant benefits beyond that actual piece of information or assistance. And so I think, you might be like, it's not worth getting my kid a ride home from school to go through all of this, but it may be worth, like you said, the pro-social, the connections, the social emotional benefits. So I think that's why it is like, what they are. You see when your community is stronger and is closer. And I think that like it's important just to remember those things, that when you're asking for help, you're getting more than just help doing that one thing you asked for help for.
Yeah. And, the kind of final thing I want to mention, and this was another study I read out of Stanford. And the woman who was in charge of the study wrote, instead of promoting self-care and implying that it's people's own responsibility to sort through their own struggles, perhaps our culture could emphasize the value of caring for each other and create more safe spaces to allow open discussions about our challenges and imperfections. And we didn't really dive into how like self-care gets in the way of asking for help. But I wanted to raise that because I mean, I think it's true. Like we often are told we should, be doing self-care. We should be, especially moms and women, you should be doing self-care all the time and making time for yourself and do this, that, and the other thing. But like also our society should take care of us. We should all take care of each other, right? That it shouldn't just be self-care. It should be social care. And, I know a lot of people who are afraid of things like socialism will get mad about that, but it isn't. So, it is socialism, but it isn't. And it's how society is meant to be. Like we're meant to care for each other. We're meant to work together. We're meant to help each other in times of trouble, crisis, joy, all of the things. We're meant to celebrate each other, and asking for help can allow us to do that. So, one real quick thing, and then I promise I will wrap it up with homework. As I went through all of this, so much of it focused on mental health, with good reason, right? Because a lot of us have no idea when we need help with our mental health because we're in a crisis. And it's very hard when you're in a crisis to know. So there are a lot of warning signs of a serious mental health challenge that I just want to mention, like the topics of. So if you have a loved one, a friend, a neighbor, whatever, and you think maybe this applies to them, you can help them get help. So mood changes, obviously like noticeable mood changes, big outbursts of emotion, those kinds of things. Behavioral changes. So obviously if someone is telling you they have suicidal thoughts, that's a big deal. But also like there are other less known symptoms like feeling like you've lost time or have large gaps in your memory, withdrawing from family, friends, neighbors, all those things, delusions, hallucinations, anything like that is a big red flag that something is going on. And then physical changes, like if somebody stops sleeping or sleeps all the time, if, their eating behaviors have changed, like whether it's restriction or binging or both. If somebody is often sweating, nauseous, has increased heart rate, those kinds of things, those are all signs that there might be a serious mental health challenge going on. And, there's hotlines you can call. We'll put them in the show notes. There's all kinds of things resources out there you can find for help with that. Homework for the week. So I think this is probably obvious, but I'm going to read it out anyway. Brainstorm what things you could use help with in your home life, work life, or socially. Like write it all down, make a big list, and then circle one thing on the list, just one thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the thing you want to focus on. Then identify who it is that you want to ask for help with that thing and craft a smart request, right? So we went over what that is and how to do it. And then if you have barriers to asking for help, use some of our methods for overcoming, reach out to us, reach out to a therapist, a friend, neighbor, whatever, and work through it. Let us know how it goes. You can find us at Go Boldly Together on social media. You can email us. You can find us on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com. We are always interested in hearing from you all and would love to know what your thoughts on asking for help are. So with that, I think we are done for today. We will be back next week with another episode on how to. So until then, everyone, have a wonderful week.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.
The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.